marriages often end with bitterness and accusation and violent rewriting of every good memory. Tests don't send calendar invites, even if it is against yourself or your parents or your close relatives. Ajib. Does something that no self-help trend, no therapy can bring about. Gaza showed us that the real measure of a human being is revealed by what remains inside of him when everything around him collapses. We saw that the Qur'an holds a person up in the hour of devastation only when it has already been planted deeply in the heart, well before that test arrives. So now let us begin asking the next question: how does the Qur'an actually build strong and formidable human beings before the storm arrives? Let us take a look. Number one, it begins by freeing the mind. Islam refuses blind loyalty. The Qur'an trains you to not make crowds into gods, to follow evidence wherever it leads, to respect people without worshipping them, to appreciate the majority without turning it into an idol, to keep your dignity intact when trends are demanding that you surrender. The Qur'an says, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Say, bring your proof if you are truthful. And the Qur'an says, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If you were to obey most of those on the earth, they will mislead you from the path of Allah. It goes deeper than freeing you from just people. It frees you from yourself, from the ego that always wants to win, the self that always wants to justify, the desire that always wants an exception for itself, to admit the truth, to stand for justice, even when your mind is pushing you to look away. The Qur'an trains for that. It says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. Oh, you who believe, stand firmly for justice as witnesses for Allah, even if it is against yourself or your parents or your close relatives. Ajib, it's objectivity of the highest order, where you're trained to testify against yourself, against your family, against your loved ones if you need, and somehow still call it a victory. Then it builds in you yet another layer of strength, the strength of restraint. To pause for a moment when everyone else is rushing to comment, to chime in. The discipline to not chase every rumor, not to build convictions on a vibe, on a short, on a fragment. Allah said, وَلَا تَقُفُوا مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Don't go pursuing that which you have no knowledge of. So you're trained by the Qur'an to say, Wallah, I don't know. And I think the world is a better place at this moment with my silence. And still call that a victory.
This is a phone, a clock, a camera, a compass, a notepad, even a studio. We share pics and we make calls. But imagine it could be even more than that. Your teacher that corrects you.
قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ.
And reminds you, who makes sure you never make the same mistake again. Memorization mistake detection from Tarteel, the smart way to memorize the Qur'an.
Then the Qur'an manufactures yet another layer of strength. Courage to the heart, a bravery, an ability to confront when need be, because Tawheed does something that no self-help trend, no therapy can bring about. You know how? By taking absolute fear out of the hands of creation and placing it in the hands of the Creator. And so when it is in the right place, the heart becomes ungovernable. The world loses its ability to blackmail it. It settles, it holds its ground against much larger forces that threatens it. Everything is telling them to be terrified, but Tawheed holds it all together. There is an astonishing verse in the Qur'an that captures this reality, the security, the strength that comes with Iman, and the opposite of the situation. سَنُلْقِي فِي قُلُوبِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الرُّعْبَ بِمَا أَشْرَكُوا بِاللَّهِ. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve because they associated partners with Allah. Cause and effect. Their shirk becomes a reason for their fear. Shirk creates an inner ground that makes you ready for fear, permanently vulnerable, always in a bracing posture, always feeling exposed. And that's why Tawheed produces a different type of human being. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمْنُ وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Those who believe, Allah said, and they don't mix their faith with wrongdoing, they will be given security. And they are the guided ones. Then, the Qur'an builds yet another layer of strength. How? By repairing your relationship with history. Listen to this one. It gives strength by refusing to chain you to guilt that you didn't earn. You're not asked to carry the sins of any age before you, nor to live forever apologizing for graves that were closed long before you were even born. It doesn't ask you to inherit an ancestral sin or to turn inherited grief into a permanent religion of misery and wailing. That's not Islam. The Qur'an reads, تِلْكَ أُمَّةٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَلَكُمْ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ وَلَا تُسْأَلُونَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. That was a nation that passed. It will have what it earned, and you will have what you earned, and you will not be asked about what they used to do. But the Qur'an isn't simplistic. Whilst it frees you from not being a prisoner to history, to the past, it then commands you in the same breath to be its student. فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Take lesson, O people of insight. So be educated by its ruins, its rises, its collapses, its betrayals, its victories, and the laws of Allah Almighty that moved all throughout it. Be a student of history. Don't be enslaved by it. And even in how you deal with the enemies, the Qur'an develops another layer of strength. To be fair, refuses you to let your pain rewrite any of your values. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا اعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Don't let the hatred of a people cause you to be unjust. Be just. That is nearer to taqwa, to piety. Then another layer of strength. The strength to end well. In a time where marriages often end with bitterness and accusation, violent rewriting of every good memory, the Qur'an trains for dignity in divorce and the grace of clean partings. It teaches the believer to remember the fadl, the virtue, even when the marriage cannot endure anymore. To remember the honor, the good that once existed, even when now it's just pain that remains. And to let a chapter close without setting fire to the whole book. Allah said, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Don't forget the graciousness, the kindness that existed between you. Then the Qur'an forms yet another layer of strength within the heart of the believer. It guards him against poverty anxiety, the form of slavery that turns people into flatterers, into career worshippers, approval addicts, the slavery that chains people to employers, audiences, donors, suppliers, the fear of being cut off, and every imagined gatekeeper of the future. So the Qur'an liberates people by correcting the oldest mistake that humans keep making again and again, which is to think that their rizq, their provisions is held by people. قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. The Qur'an asks, say, who provides for you from the heavens and the earth? Or who controls hearing and sight? And who brings the living out from the dead and brings the dead from the living? And who manages the affairs? They will say, Allah, so will you not fear him? And then the Qur'an creates yet another layer of formidable strength, which is by freeing people from the oldest weapon of intimidation, and that is the fear of death. Saying, وَمَا كَانَ لِنَفْسٍ أَن تَمُوتَ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ كِتَابًا مُؤَجَّلًا. It is not for a soul to die except by permission of Allah at a determined decree. No one owns the moment except Allah. And it is precisely that Quranic training that causes fear whilst not disappearing, but to lose its centrality, to lose its throne. So the Qur'an doesn't promise people an easier storm, but it builds a stronger interior to survive and maybe thrive in any storm. That's when you host the Qur'an inside well before the exam arrives. Shaykh Naji, whom we introduced in the last episode, he didn't know what he was about to lose. But when the moment came, the verses were already there. Tests don't send calendar invites. The diagnosis just arrives. The phone rings, the betrayal hits, the door is knocked, the enemy betrays. Your neighbors do nothing. And in that exact second, you reach for whatever is already inside of you. If your heart is empty or crowded with noise, you will find nothing to hold you. But if the Qur'an lives there, you find a fortress. So give the Qur'an access to your heart, administrative permission. And your heart will carry you with protection, with courage, and with a glimpse of paradise before paradise, even within hellish conditions like Gaza. So imagine what it can do for you and I. How to achieve this? Well, this is why we are here. And this is just the beginning of our journey. Next episode, we go back to where it all began. The cave. How just 5 verses from the Qur'an shook the entire world.